Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another epi of League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys to wrap up our player rankings for the 2025 World Championship. Hanging out in the bot lane today, talking AD carries and supports. And I'll just say straight up, I was hyping up the mid lane. Always mid laners are kind of the fun one to do. It's the most stacked. But this year, it's AD carries because you look at these 10 guys. And I got confidence in 1 through 10 that if these guys get quickly to 2-3 items, they're carrying the game, no question. I'm fully confident in them.
I think the lethality, the killer status of the ADC players right now is absolutely at a maximum tier heading towards this World Championship. Looking through this list, I think pretty much 1 through 10, you could make an argument for picking them and building your roster around them as your carry. So certainly no shortage of that firepower when you're looking through this list. Let's jump right into it and go through these high power carries.
And it honestly feels disrespectful right from the bottom. Like, Doggo, we got a 10, Masu 9, even Hans at 8. I'm like, I've got to defend these guys because they're all fantastic and can play at legit MVP levels. And Hans Sama, I think, is a guy you might have maybe thought shouldn't even be on this list. But again, you look at the full body of work, and he has been probably the highest level and most consistent player in the entire LEC.
I think Masu is kind of going, where did this come from? Because he certainly was in that forerunner, frontrunner position as far as kind of this lower tier of where the ADCs are, less proven. And I say less proven because of how amazing that top tier is going to be as we talk about them. But for Masu, he gets a bit, kind of lapped, I guess, by Hans Sama, what we have seen throughout these last 2 months or so, I think, in the LEC and the way that he has really driven that G2 engine to become that dominant force that they showed out as at the end of the LEC. I think Hans Sama's got to deserve that credit.
Yeah, and especially doing it, leveling up in these playoffs against some stiff competition. It felt like Kalist was kind of on a fast track to being the best AD carry in Europe, but Hans Sama said, "Little bro, you gotta wait a little bit. This is still my region that we're running through, and G2's region as a whole." And then even ahead of these Western guys, Elk. Listen, no question, Elk is not maybe at the peak levels that we saw out of him in 2023, 2024, and that's why Hope is ahead of him, who's been incredibly, fantastic and the most consistent guy on anyone's legend, but both of those guys at 6 and 7 feels harsh, but again, then you see the top 5 and you're going,
they're two guys that have clearly shown us that they are capable of pushing their teams and pushing not only their own gameplay to that next level, that tier that is required to be at the elite, to be one of the top contending favorites type of situation. But yes, that log jam ahead of them of just some of the beasts of beasts when you talk about the ADC position. A little unfortunate for them to find themselves only at 6 and 7, but certainly room to impress. And guys that you could also, again, not be surprised at the end of the tournament, revisiting a list like this and going, how were they in this position?
And we've even got ahead of them a guy who might not be in that main stage. And you want to talk about the Herculean efforts out of Gala to even get IG into this play-in stage. And not only is he the only IG member we're putting on these top 10s, but he's sitting here at 5, and that is not just the last playoff series against JDG, which he Omega carried, but the last several series, and even in a lot of the losses for IG, there's probably less than 3 games all season where I'm going, Gala could have done more and won this game.
Certainly someone that I think at the end of the day punched above his weight level, punched above expectations, and we already had pretty high expectations for what he would bring, what option, what viability he would provide for that Invictus Gaming roster. And I think, yes, not been disappointed by it in the slightest from how he has been able to play. And it's a good sign that there's an opportunity to have him on the international stage here. But I think, again, you look at this list, we've got him. And right ahead of him is another guy pretty much that is in that danger territory of, yes, let's talk about him. Let's get excited. He might not even be here at the event for longer than 1 series.
Yeah, and obviously now we're going to have that head-to-head, Guma and Gala going at it. And I mean, Guma Yushi's a guy who I think, no question, is deep-rooted with the clutch gene. The higher stakes the match, the higher the level we see out of this guy. So a do-or-die elimination match, I'm fully expecting Gala not to have his way against the opposite AD carry like he has in previous series.
And it's almost heretical for me to say it, but I think at this point, given how things have gone through the year, the ups and downs, whatever's going to go on behind the scenes with T1, a loss here to Invictus Gaming, and if it's a poor performance from Gumayushi, you can absolutely see that slippery slope turn into all of a sudden it's smashes time in the bottom lane for T1. So certainly a lot of attention should be put towards Gumayushi and his performance against what will be Gala and Invictus Gaming in that important one series to make it to Worlds.
And there's going to be a lot of pressure on a guy like Jackie Love as well, reigning MVP from that regular season in the LPL, despite losing back-to-back series to BLG. Again, Jackie Love had a resurgent season. You can talk about maybe, you know what, I think you couldn't even argue Guma ahead of him right now. I think Jackie Love is deserving of a 3 spot here, and I think the top 2 are very clear in Ruler and Viper, and with Ruler coming out on top, especially after that head-to-head series against Viper, where he's basically playing all 5 roles. He's the smite button for Gen G, he's roaming around, he's the main carry. This was an absolute, I know it's overly used, but vintage performance this whole playoff run for Ruler.
And a real treat to have these 2 giga stars at the front run of the ADC position. And for it, I can find an avenue for Viper to surpass Ruler. And usually that is about the champion selection, right? You're looking at more so things like Ziggs and his comfortability on it and how he's able to execute and carry for the Hanwha Life squad in that position on those champions. But if you're just going for overwhelming force, that clutch factor that he is him, he is going to be that difference maker when you need that difference in your corner. Ruler is the best of the best in the ADC position, and he has maybe taken a little bit longer than you would have hoped for, given how excited we were for him to head back to Gen G. But he has absolutely delivered on that promise and is headed towards Worlds, looking for even more for the Gen G faithful.
And no secret, the success to Ruler in the latter half of the season can also be applied to his buddy in the bot lane as we kind of flip things and look at supports and start at the top of that table. In the winter split, or LCK Cup, whatever it was, we're talking about Duro. Gen G can't compete at the same level with this rookie support coming in. He's going to be a liability. Ruler doesn't look as good. Now we fast forward to winning the summer split for Gen G. And Duro's a guy we're highlighting more often than not on this star-studded Gen G roster, and we got him number 1 on this list.
Absolutely crazy. I don't think even the biggest of hopium copium supporters of Duro would have believed that this was the path that we were going to be on. Now, frankly, I was even pretty early on saying that we got something special cooking up here for Gen G. And I didn't even envision that we would hit the peaks that we did. The importance, the factor, the role that he played within this team, being at that championship type of level. Yes, it is a fact that you got to be looking at, and it's one of these ones that makes that bottom lane, that star of Ruler, even more dangerous and scary, is knowing that, no, it's not just some rookie slotted alongside him, it's Duro. And he's going to make sure you know that it's Duro and what he's able to do and what he's capable of for this Gen G team. And yet he is certainly one of the things that really helps accelerate not only Ruler, but of course Chovy, Canyon, Keen, the rest of the squad, and making these big plays, making it happen later in the game. Duro, absolutely very impressed by him and happy to see that we can give him some flowers before this World's event gets started.
And it's been amazing to see the confidence that his teammates have put in him, right? Whether it's some of the picks, we think of the Blitzcrank coming in, Pyke, these champions where he's controlling kind of the pace of the entire game, and these 4 veterans around him were like, yeah, let this boy cook, because he's been amazing and has earned our respect and confidence, which again is a true testament to him. He does have sniffing right behind him around the corner, I think, having us talk about other supports probably motivates a guy like Kyria, who's so accustomed to being at the very tippity top of these support rankings.
I think Kyria is going to kind of nudge his buddy Faker in the mid lane and go, is this what it's like to be the very best in the position at the region? Push it all the way to the limit, and your reward is some other monster comes from behind, like Duro, to surpass what you have been able to do. I think that's certainly looking over at the likes of Chovy, Showmaker, that have all surpassed and jumped in to that conversation of the mid lane alongside Faker. Kyria's got that same type of company building up with Duro, but yes, talking about Kyria, and again, another year where we showcase and see his creativity, his playmaking be at the very forefront of what you want from your support position. Again, a guy who elevates not only his partner in that bottom lane, but everybody else. Really, I think the biggest thing for me with him is how big Owner has been this year. One of the things that they always talk about together is that creativity, that playmaking, that they can play off of each other, which pushes one another. Owner playing at that type of level in that form heading to the World Championship is something we usually haven't seen. Usually it's a lot of struggles before that World Championship for Owner where he does succeed. I think it might be a little bit different, and I'm hoping that extends a little bit of extra luck, a little bit of extra power towards Kyria in the bottom lane.
And then just outside of Kyria is Delight kind of looking on to round out this trio of LCK supports at the top. And I think that's a pretty locked in consensus top 3 supports heading into this event. But outside of that, I feel like, we throw Hong in there for 4. He's been surprisingly consistent, really, with TES and Jackie Love in that bot lane. Part of the reason why Jackie Love got MVP. But still, Hong almost all the way down to Kai Wing. I feel like 4 to 10 on this list is very comparable. And on any given day or series, you could be talking about these Western guys in Busio, Alvaro, Labrov kind of stepping up and competing against these LPL and even LCK bot lanes.
Once you step outside that top 3, which, side note, I think Delight has got that extra little bit of fire underneath him going, what the heck happened here? Kyria, yeah, I knew he was ahead of me. I got Duro jumping up ahead of me. That was my spot. I was
next. Peter's next coming in.
No way. So absolutely. I'm thinking again, yes, that is a pretty solid top 3, but I'm eyeing my guy Delight to be a little bit peeved off, a little bit ticked off to try and jump back up over those 2. But outside of that, it really is more so guys who need to prove it. Prove me. And they've got room to climb up a list like this, to make an impression, to make something of their name. And you're right to single out really a lot of the Western support, specifically Busio, Alvaro, Labrov as well. Going to be guys that have the skill to make it an impression on you in this World Championship. The expectation, everything else is absolutely not up to the level, I think, when you're looking at this position compared to the list that we've gone through with ADC, mid lane, and top as well, jungle, of course, with all those star players. Support's a little bit different, but still an area where I think that difference, that lack of absolute superstar, creates an avenue to birth a new superstar out of this event.
And I think especially with the 2 EU guys, Labrov and Alvaro, we've seen really the early mid-game kind of run through these guys and have dictated how the game is going to play, whether that's abandoning their bot lane buddies and going and roaming pre-level 6 or the flanks. Again, we highlighted Labrov in that MCOY series. The play where he's on this Alistar, completely distracting Jojo Pyun from an entire fight without even pressing a button on Alistar. He's just walking around, his vision control, knowing where he can carve in without the team having any idea is... I know Labrov kind of is a veteran now, but I still view him as a younger player and has really, outside of just the micro gameplay, has really come into his own of understanding how to play the game properly.
All 3 are primed to deliver for the West in that regard, but it's always going to be who is going to step up, who is going to be that one that punches through and is delivering it. And again, you're looking at Busio with what he can prove with this FlyQuest roster. Again, the experience, the buildup that he has gone through. And then looking on the LEC side with Alvaro, the opportunity that is in front of him with this Mad Lions, Super, Movistar, Koi, whatever the heck it's going to be, roster heading out there and what he is able to do and help unlock that team to play at their best. And yes, coming off of the LEC's past weekend and what we saw from Lebrov, and I think really the journey and growth that he has shown and turned around on the haters from him joining G2, I think that this could be a wonderful world championship to keep that momentum rolling.
Yeah, you hear that? It's the pre-Worlds hopium out of the West. You know, this year it feels close. It feels like we can legitimately compete. It always happens when we do these rankings. We're going, you know what? They've looked pretty good this year.
I'm ready to keep it up until we get to see IG versus T1, and then we go, wait, that's your bottom seed you're sending from the OPL LCK? I think that will be where I think the hopium copium takes a little dent in the supply.
But it usually lasts until we get to at least, you know, the best of threes. And then you get those head-to-heads against the top squads, and you're going, oh, yeah. I remember. This is a familiar feeling from Worlds Past. But for now, we're still, we've got a heavy dose of it and feeling real good as we'll continue. Eventually, it's time for those top 20 players to break through. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark with you. Absolute beauties. Thanks for hanging out, and we will catch you on that flippity.